Okay, so thank you for joining me for part 2 of our Working with Buyers bootcamp. I'm recording it, so I'm recording it for people on Zoom that may join us or watch later. If you see me looking over, it's only because I'm seeing if someone needs to be admitted. We do have 4 people in the classroom that you cannot see on camera, so do not think I'm crazy and talking to myself. Let's just quickly do a recap because this is part 2, and these were our objectives. So last time we hit this and this. So we started with why. We started with mindset around why is a buyer consult important? What are some limiting beliefs we might have around delivering a buyer consult? It could be holding us back from the best version of our business. I think it's important we start there, and if you didn't take that, you go back and watch it, because if you can't get your mindset right around something, will you ever execute it at a high level? I know I won't. Right? I need to fully believe in why I'm doing what I'm doing to execute it at a really high level. So that's why we spent a lot of time here last time, breaking down myths, breaking down limiting beliefs. It was really, really great. So then we moved on to how to secure a consult. Okay, we talked about what a consult is, and I recognize that you may have a different definition of a consult than I will. As the volunteer teacher, I get to say what a consult is in this class. And really the distinction we made for everybody in here is that we talked about what a consult is and what a consult is not. And for me, the distinction is that a consult is not, in my vocabulary, meeting someone at a house and having a conversation around a kitchen island. Not to say you can't have a valuable conversation around a kitchen island, just to say that if you have a valuable conversation around a kitchen island, are you giving it enough time and space to go as deep as you could in what I consider a true consult, which is to sit down face to face or over Zoom for an hour sometimes, right? And I don't think that that's super conducive, especially in today's market where agents might be coming and going, right? There's a time pressure there. So it's not meeting someone at the house and having a consult or having a conversation. And it's not that initial call. That initial call, like someone's referred to you, or it's an internet lead and you're trying to convert them, or an open house lead that you're following up with. That initial call is strictly a discovery call with the intention of getting the appointment, getting the consult. Okay, so that initial securing a consult. Do you guys remember, for those of you that took the first one, the acronym that we went over as far as some words to remember, questions to ask on that initial consult or initial call? Right.
LP Mama.
LP Mama. Yep. So again, refresher, LP Mama is these are the key things that you want to go through. Avoid going through into a consult on the phone. The buyer is going to want to talk to you. Well, I want 3 bedrooms and I want this and I want this. Listen, great. And you know your goal is to go deeper with them on that later. You want to talk about LP Mama. What does L stand for? Location.
This morning.
Awesome. Location, right? You want to find out the property they're inquiring on, or if they're referred to you, what general area are they looking in? Because you want to make sure that it's even an area you cover, right? Number 2, because the point of this discovery call is to discern, can you serve them, right? Are they ready, willing, and able, and worth your time for the next step? Now, everyone is worth our time, but you know what I mean, right? Okay. What's the P in LP Mama? Price, right? You're trying to understand, hey, they inquired on this $200,000 home. What's the price range they're shopping in? Just to make sure you understand that from the get-go. And then the next one is M, which stands for mortgage, right? Which the question is really around financing. Do they need to obtain a mortgage? Will they be buying with cash? That kind of conversation. You're trying to assess if they're able to buy. And if they're not, or they don't know, then you know the next thing you do is you can drill down in some questions right there to assess whether or not you think they're going to be able to get financed. Like, how much cash do they have? How is their credit? How is their unemployment? How is their employment? You can assess pretty quickly if they're going to be able to get pre-approved. Then you can connect them to a lender, right? They may say, yep, I've got a pre-approval. I just met with someone from so-and-so lender last week. Great. Okay, but you're assessing their ability to buy. A, what's the first A? LP mama?
Agent, right?
Agent. Are they working with an agent? Right? Are you going to invest time in someone that says, you know what, I am working with so-and-so, they're my sister. I'm working with so-and-so and you know, I did sign a partnership agreement with them, right? So understanding that up front. Now, what's the second M? Actually, yes, motivation was probably the first M and the second M is mortgage. So yeah, but again, LP Mama has flexibility. That's why I like it, that you don't have to stick to a certain script. You can allow the conversation to naturally evolve and go to where you need to, as long as you're like mentally checking off those things. When I was first taking these kinds of calls, again, no matter the lead source, I would literally, wherever I was, like write down on a notebook or post-it note LP Mama, so I could just visually check things off to keep my discovery questions in check. So motivation, you want to find out why. And then lastly, A, what's the last A?
Able, ability.
Close. Appointment. You want to go for the appointment, right? And the appointment is securing the consult. Okay. So just to do a quick recap of how we secure an appointment, the goal is to show value. The goal is to be different than the other agents they're calling, where they'll simply go and show them a house, right? We are not door openers. We are fiduciaries. We are consultants. And our job is to guide our clients. And sometimes that means leading them to where they need to go next. And they don't even know that's where they need to go next, but after they will thank you. So securing a consult, just to give a quick recap, is about showing value as far as what a consult is and getting them to yes. So I'm going to breeze through real quick what my spiel is. This is what I talked to our team about. This is what I'm currently like role playing with our ISA about this. So this is a go-to, make it your own. Generally, I'll start with something like, okay, so it sounds like after I've gone through LP Mama, it sounds like you're really excited to get your home search started, right? Everything we've talked about, it sounds like you're ready. You've got the funding to get started. That's awesome. Now, here's something that sets my team apart from the rest. We service over 200 buyers a year, okay? All that means to you, and you're going to be able to fill in your value proposition, right? All that means to you is, no, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. So I might say we service over 200 buyers a year, and what our buyers have found to be super helpful, what my clients have found to be extremely valuable in their home buying journey, is the very first step where we slow down so that we can speed up later. And here's what slowing down looks like. I call it a buyer consultation. And there's three, and I will literally, I'm on the phone, right? And I will literally hold up 3 fingers to remind myself to go through them. And I will say to them, there are 3 goals that we establish in a buying consultation. Why do you think I say 3 rather than just launch into, here's what we're going to cover? Why do you think I say 3?
Right, and with a framework of what is coming.
Exactly. When you say a number, it gives their brain something to focus on. And then you say the first is, the second is, the third is. So their brain's tracking with you and they're more likely to capture each point. Does that make sense? So I will say, here's the 3 things that we accomplish in a home buying consultation. The first is, we're going to go real deep on your wants and needs. What are your must-haves in your next home and what are your nice-to-haves? I know you told me, and then I'll interject. I know you told me you really want 3 bedrooms in Brighton. We're going to go a lot deeper to make sure I'm super aligned with what your vision is, what your goals are. Okay. Second thing, we're going to go over the state of the real estate market locally today. You mentioned earlier, this is where I'll interject, right? You mentioned earlier the last time you bought a home was 15 years ago. Would you agree the real estate market has probably changed in the last 15 years? I want to ask questions like that as much as possible to get them to yes. Because if they're saying yes, they're tracking with me, they're listening to me. So I'll say, would you agree that the real estate market has changed? Right? Grant, you're saying, yeah, okay, great. So we're going to slow down and go over the real estate market. And we're going to talk about all of the tools and resources and strategies that I have at my disposal to help you win in this market. Okay. And number 3, they're waiting to hear that number 3, they're hanging on the edge of their seat. is we are going to go through the entire home buying process, start to finish, so that you always know what comes next. Now, I'm never going to expect you to remember that. We're going to hold your hand the entire way. But I want my clients have found that when they know what comes next, they feel really empowered. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. So that's how I tee it up. And then I'll say, so my goal, so I'll say, my goal at the end of our consultation is that you feel 1, extreme clarity on your goals. And I'm aligned with you, right? We both have extreme clarity on your goals. Number 2, you feel extremely educated on the market and the process that you're about to embark on. And number 3, you feel very empowered and excited to partner with me. Does that sound like that would benefit you? Does that sound like that process would be valuable for you? Generally, like, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I need, right? And then I'll say, okay, great. So here's what to expect. Here's what it looks like. Then I'll launch into, here's the beauty of it. You can do this from the comfort of your home. All I need is 45 to 60 minutes of your time. We're going to hop on Zoom. I'll get to meet you face to face. We're going to cover all of that in 60 minutes. How does that sound? Right? So you're selling the value, you're getting them to yes, and then you're setting them up for what happens. Okay. So that's securing the consult. Now today, what we're going to talk about is really, this is going to be the meat of our conversation today. Okay, I got him to yes, I got him to commit to a consult. Oh, hey, Kathleen. I just saw you, girl. Your picture is beautiful.
Hey.
Feel free to chime in, okay? Can you actually say something?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Can you say something, Kathleen?
Can you hear me?
Now I can. Okay, I wanted to turn the volume up to make sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So today, this is going to be the meat of the conversation, right? Okay, I got a consult. It's tomorrow at 4. What the heck do I talk about? And then after I deliver the 1, 2, 3 things, how do I get commitment? How do I list my buyers? I remember as a new agent, I can't remember who I learned consults from. It probably was from the whole Ignite series that we have. So I learned as a brand new agent that this is what I just thought this is what everybody does. And I learned very quickly, not everybody does this. And I remember thinking of it because I got burned a couple of times. I made a choice a couple of times to go outside of my process, super anxious, met someone at a house. And then after they toured it and loved it, they're like, okay, I'm going to talk to my agent about writing an offer. And I'm like, God, I just wasted an hour of my life. I will never do that again. Right. But I remember thinking like, I could not live on that wheel, that cycle where not only do I not know if this person is committed to me, but when my coach would ask me about my pipeline, I couldn't tell her if that was my MO. I wouldn't be able to tell her what my pipeline is of buyers because sure, I've got 50 buyers I've talked to, but how many of them are actually going to end up writing with me? I couldn't tell her that. Whereas if I have a listing agreement with a buyer and we have mutual commitment, I know at some point, whether it's next month or next year, they're going to buy with me. Pending I do something bad and break that relationship, right? Okay. So we see the value, we know how to get here, yes? Cool. Let's talk about delivering a consult. Now, we're going to talk logistics for a second because I think it's super important. And I don't know about you, Laura, if you felt this way. But sometimes I find that the biggest challenge in the beginning is like, how do I set up my tech? How do I get a Zoom set up and make sure I'm sharing the screen and all of that, right? So I can't remember who it was. It was someone in our market center last year. They were doing a consult for the first time and I was so happy and proud of them. And it was the Zoom that kind of, they waited till the last minute to figure out the Zoom situation and it was nerve-wracking, right? So do yourself a favor and have a friend pretend to be on a consult with you. Was it you? Or no, okay, it was someone, I can't remember. You were like smiling, so. Do yourself a favor and grab a friend, grab someone in the office and just hop on a Zoom, like set it up, like pretend they're a buyer. Okay, so you're gonna wanna send that buyer an email invitation, calendar invite with your Zoom link, right? So buyer consultation with Emily Martini, Tuesday at noon, and put your Zoom link in there, okay. Then hop on with someone and get it all set up so that you know exactly if you want to share your screen, when are you gonna share your screen, how do you let them in the room? Like if you're not a Zoom, if you're a Zoom novice, work all the kinks out first. Do yourself a favor, okay? All right. So then delivering a consult, I'm going to erase this now.
Can I say something about
Yes. I took this class with Susan, I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe, and learned so much because I was a serial leader, lead at the door, lead in the house, and then had a consult, and then, you know. And I believe that was the right thing to do until I took Susan's class and then I shifted. And I got Zoom. I downloaded it, it's free, whatever, and my first buyer consult after I got Zoom. Zoom is only good for 45 minutes. And at 37 minutes, and I was really fighting because these people did not want to sign a buyer partnership agreement with me. It pops up, you have 8 minutes left, you have 7 minutes left, and I'm thinking, no. So 45 minutes is kind of a short time. You will likely go, she's right, to 60. It's close to 60 if you have a really thorough one. So have that in your mind. And it's worth the investment. You can write it off to just buy it for a year, it's $100.
Yeah.
And then you can just ramble on for $5 if you want to.
Okay.
$100 for the year. Yeah, or you can do monthly. I think it's probably like 15 a month, so you save a little bit if you do the whole year, but if you don't want, there's options. Just know. Thank you for that horrible thing to run across in the middle of a consult. And I'm sure Laura navigated it with client colors. I feel like we told, hold the credit card. Well, I did it. That's right, I love it. A 0 out of 10, I did not write. So, consult. I worked out the kinks with our Zoom. We are super confident on the technology we're going to use. And now we are meeting with our clients face to face in the comfort of their own home. And if you remember what we talked about before, as far as what a consult is not, it is not a phone call. One of the biggest reasons we said it's not a phone call is because we're missing 75–85% of communication, which is body language. So it's important our cameras are on and they can see us. Part of a consult is to learn these things, gain commitment. But the very first part of a consult, which is a continuation of the discovery call, is building trust and rapport. And that body language, people can see you, they feel connected to you, is really important. So we're going to start with, we have 3 things, right? First, we're going to talk about their goals, their needs and wants. We're going to lead with extreme clarity around that and alignment. Number 2, we're going to educate them on the state of the market and all of the tools, resources, and strategies that we have to help them win. And number 3, we're going to go through the entire home buying process, A to Z, so they know exactly what comes next and there are no surprises. Okay. So before you just launch into this, my recommendation is that you tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them. Sorry. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them. Sandwich, classic book writing, classic speech writing is in the very front for beginning, rather than just launch into this. We're going to remind them why we're here today. Thank you so much for taking time to meet with me today. I'm sure you recall as we last spoke, I have 3 goals for us today. 1, 2, and 3. Here's what we're going to cover. Is there anything else you wanted to cover? Make sure you ask that question, because there might be something else and you're writing it down to make sure you cover it. You're showing that you're thorough and you're showing that you care about what they want. Okay. Most of the time, you'll think that's exactly what we expected. Great. We'll dive right in. Now, the only other thing I'll add here is that what we do on our team and what I would recommend that you develop for yourself is we do like a pre-listing email. So when we send out that calendar invite with the Zoom link, we're also sending them an email with like our agent's information, almost like a resume, information around why I work with our team, videos, reviews, so that they're walking into that appointment already having some background on us. Because the goal is that we're not talking about ourselves the whole time. Our goal is to ask questions and get them talking most of the time, right? Because the person who talks the most feels the what? They feel the best, right? In a negotiation, the person talking the most generally loses. You've ever heard that? So do yourself a favor, set yourself up for success, just create some collateral that can work for you that you're emailing them beforehand. And then you can talk a little bit about yourself at some point in here. You can find your rhythm. Generally, our agents, we're teaching them to talk a little bit about that stuff in the beginning to just establish additional credibility. So they're talking about where they cover, how many clients they've served, just again, to just pump up their ego just a little bit to establish credibility so that the buyers know that they're talking to someone with a lot of experience, okay? We don't spend a lot of time on that. We just say, here's just a little bit about me so that you know that the conversation I'm gonna have with you today comes from a background of a lot of experience. That's the goal, okay? So then tell them what you're gonna tell them. These are the 3 things we're gonna cover today. Is there any other goal you had in mind? Okay, no, great, let's jump right in. Stick to the script. We're gonna go through goals, needs, and wants. Inside of needs and wants is also financing, right? Part of the goal is, okay, how are we actually going to, or we'll save money, how are we actually gonna buy it? So you can certainly have set aside a list of questions if you want to make sure that you're not missing something. I know when we started first doing consults, I had a front and back page of these are all the things we want to cover. We would just check them off as we went through. Things like, hey, we've been talking a lot about single families. Would you ever be interested in a townhome or a condo? Right? Things that I just don't want to forget to ask if I'm deep in this conversation. So prepare your list of questions. And my advice would be, go deep. If they say to you, for example, well, we really want 3 bedrooms. Okay, you're gonna write down 3 bedrooms. The inexperienced agent is gonna say, okay, great, how many baths? The skilled agent is gonna say, okay, tell me what's important to you about 3 bedrooms. Because they might say, well, we have a bedroom, we need a bedroom for our kid, and then we need a 3rd bedroom for an office space. My husband works from home. Okay, great. Just curious, if we found a 2-bedroom that was perfect and had a dedicated office space in the basement, but it's not really considered a bedroom, does that meet that need? Yeah, great, okay. Then you know you can set up a 2-bedroom search and you're not missing a really great opportunity for them, okay? So go deep, dig deep, understand why what they're telling you is important. You're gonna wanna talk about things in your list of questions, you're gonna wanna ask things about the features of the home inside and outside. Some of my go-to questions include, tell me what you love about your current space that you live in. Because generally what they love about their current home are things they want to duplicate in their next home. So I hear things like, I love the open concept. I love how bright it is. I need a lot of natural light in my home, or I entertain a lot. So I really want to make sure I have a nice island. That will trigger them to be thinking about what they love about their current space. I love asking them about, is there any style of home in particular that they absolutely have an aversion to? And I'll say some people, for example, they might be like, what do you mean? And I'll say, well, some people, they grew up in a ranch home and they love ranch homes and they only want to have single story living. Some people, for whatever reason, they just don't like raised ranches. They don't like walking into steps. So is there any particular style that you say, I absolutely do not want in my search results? Okay. We'll ask if there's, do they have any pets? Right? Do they need any type of fenced in yard? And sometimes they might say, I absolutely need a fence. I have a dog and I need a fenced in yard. Okay, great. If the property is perfect and it doesn't have a fence, are you okay putting a fence in later? Right? You're trying to understand what is the must have and what is the nice to have. The goal is to keep the criteria in your MLS search as wide as possible so that nothing slips through the cracks. But also, if they must have a 2-car garage and that is a hard deal breaker, then you've got that in there so you're not showing them anything that's less than a 2-car garage. Make sense? Okay. I'm trying to think what are some other like key questions. We'll go through obvious bedroom, bathroom. We'll ask them if they have an idea of square footage. Most people don't. We're agents, so we get square footage relative to other properties. Most normal consumers don't, and yet sometimes if you ask them, do you happen to know how much square footage you live in now? Is that comfortable for you, or would you like more? That gives them a range. Are you willing to do work, or do you want something that's move-in ready? Right? How handy are you? Then they'll start talking about that and understand, okay, am I looking for something that's perfect? Are they willing to maybe put a roof on, but they don't want to do a brand new kitchen? You'll start to understand that. Who's going to be living with them? In terms of like, how many people are we accommodating in this home? Do they entertain a lot? Getting an idea of what kind of entertainment space they might need. Is there any special pieces of furniture that they need to accommodate? Some people might have a grand piano that is super important to them. And not that this affects your MLS search, but you know, when you go on a showing, you could say, hey, how would your grand piano look here? And they're gonna be like, oh, she remembered that I have a grand piano, right? Sometimes I've heard pool table, or I've got like a 60-inch TV I need to make sure will fit on my wall. Is there any special piece of furniture? So you're digging into the needs and wants and must-haves and deal breakers, attached garage, detached garage, stuff like that. Do you want me to keep going here, or do you get the gist? Get the gist? Okay. Then, in addition to needs and wants, under the goals section, we're gonna talk about financing. Now, one of two things is happening. Either they've already come to you with a pre-approval letter because part of your homework for them, after you assessed in the discovery call that they should have no problem getting financing, is that they might have got financing with one of your preferred lenders that you connected them to, and you now have a copy of their pre-approval. Or they haven't done it yet, and yet you have so much information, you know they're gonna be good, but you still go a little bit deeper. Make sense? You wanna understand, the key pieces of information you wanna understand is what is their monthly budget that they feel comfortable with in terms of a mortgage payment if they're financing? How much money do they have down to work with? And it starts to get complicated when you have someone that needs to sell and buy. This is where it takes an extra level of skill to help navigate which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Most people that need to sell and buy don't know where to start. So they're counting on you in that conversation to help guide them. And you need to determine if they can buy non-contingent or if they need to sell to buy. You don't need to determine that by yourself, but you need to have a loan officer help you determine that, right? And then the tricky part in this market is getting a contingent offer accepted. So this is where you would talk to them about, okay, it sounds like you're not comfortable carrying 2 mortgages. You don't think a bank will approve you to carry 2 mortgages. So it sounds like we're going to need to sell to buy. Would you agree? Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit later about the state of the market, but it comes into play here in the sense that it's very difficult right now to get a contingent offer accepted. And so what the value I provide my clients is a conversation around what our options are. So we have options. Here are some of the things my clients have done. Sometimes I've had clients that sell their home first and they're prepared to go into a rental, sometimes for up to a year, so they can take that money and then shop for a new home at their leisure without feeling pressured by the market. Is that something you're in a position to do? Let them think about it. A lot of times it's no. Okay. I've had other clients, so it's not you saying this, you're saying I've had other clients, so they can see themselves in the clients. Do you get that? Yeah. So I've had other clients that will sell their home, and if they're not interested in renting, they will stay with family for a little bit for an interim. Do you have family that you'd be willing to stay with, or that would be willing to take you in, right? Okay, yes or no. Next option. Let's say, I think you and I just talked about this too, Laura, bridge loan. Has anyone heard of a bridge loan? Okay, so a bridge loan is if you have a buyer that is able to qualify non-contingent to buy a house, okay? But they don't have the down payment because the down payment is tied up in their mortgage and their equity of the house they need to sell. So while the bank says they can carry 2 mortgages, they literally can't bring money to the closing table if they buy first because the money is sitting in the value of their home. So a bridge loan says, okay, you're going to close on your new house. You're going to take out that mortgage. You're going to keep your old mortgage. So you've got 2 mortgages, and we're going to give you a third loan for a short period of time. That third loan is $50,000 that you need for your down payment. And that's, you know that you're going to pay that off real quick because you're going to pay that off when you sell your next house. Okay. So banks do it so that they can get the purchase mortgage. They charge a little bit of interest on it. Okay. So it's important that you know your options and how to walk people through what these options are. So you're going to want to ask questions like, how much cash do you have available right now? And is that liquid cash, or is that cash that's tied up in your equity, right? And is there someone that can gift you that cash instead of a bridge loan that you can then pay them back later? I'm getting a little bit off topic, but how long does that cash need to sit in their bank account before they can use it for a mortgage if someone gifts them money? We know
3 months.
60 days generally, unless it's changed generally a bank wants to see funds cured for 60 days. So if they're saying to you, you know what, our money's in our house, but like our amazing aunt is gonna give us 50 grand just as a bridge loan, no interest, just short-term thing. Okay, great. You told me you want to buy in the next 45 days. You're getting money from your aunt. Get that money in your bank account now because it needs to cure for 60 days or the bank won't recognize it as your money. Got it? So that's where you can show up and add value for them. So this is where you get extreme clarity around needs, wants, and budget. And sometimes I'll ask, if I don't already have this from the discovery call, I might just go into it again, which is when you're shopping for homes online, what is the price? Like, we know what your monthly budget is. What is the ceiling you'd like me to set? We know the bank is saying you're pre-approved for 500,000. Your monthly budget is 3,000 a month. That's probably going to put you in a price range of 350 to 400. What's the cap you want me to set? Let them give you their price, okay? So we don't spend their money. So you're determining this, basically this section is determining what are you putting in the MLS for their search. That's the whole goal of this section. Okay. Let me make sure I have any other notes on that. Budget question. Okay. The only other thing as far as budget would be, and we talked a little bit about this, is cash to close, which if you get a deep enough discovery call, you should have an understanding of their cash available to close. And it's important that you know mortgage math and you can assess pretty quickly how much someone would need to bring to the closing table, assuming no concessions or grant or anything like that, depending on whether it's a conventional mortgage, finance, or FHA mortgage, VA, that kind of thing. So if you have a red flag that their cash to close is low compared to what they would need without concessions or a grant in this competitive market, you're going to want to pause here and go deeper on this conversation to say, okay, let's talk about our options, because more than likely you're going to need double that amount to close. Okay, let's talk about our options. I've had clients get a gift from a family member. Do you have any family member that would be willing to gift you money? And you'd be surprised how many people say, yeah, I do actually, right? So you just helped them come up with a solution that they didn't even know was on their radar. Okay, if maybe they don't have that, okay. I will look into some grant options I will send you some grant options to see if you qualify for them. If you don't qualify based on income, for example, and we say it's good to have another 10 grand before you can afford to close on a home, how quickly can you save 10 grand? Right, you want to understand, is it going to take them a year? Is it going to take them 2 years? This is helping you assess, are they already willing, able right now? Are they already willing and able buyer in 6 months? Okay, you're still going to serve them, but remember, our goal is to match their motivation. They might be motivated to buy tomorrow, but if they can't, right, you got to bring reality to them, because the goal is that they walk away with a very clear understanding of their ability. Okay. So the more, all that to say, the more classes you can take with loan officers, the more you can understand about financing, the more you can put yourself in these classes, the more filler to this conversation you will develop in your consult. Okay. Now, I'm going to pause there for a second, because one of the myths or limiting beliefs we talked about in class number 1 was, I'm a new agent and I don't feel like I have enough value to offer. So that's why I don't set a consult. I don't know what to say. And my objection to that, or my objection handler to that, was, even if you compare yourself to a seasoned agent and that seasoned agent is going to say X, Y, and Z, and you're only going to say X, I guarantee you your X is more than that consumer knows, right? So just have faith and trust that you do this every day, you go to classes every day, they do it once every 10 years, okay? And you have plenty of resources that can help you. If you are feeling uncomfortable, see if your transaction coach will join you for a consult, right? There's options. Okay, number 2, we're going to move on to state of the market. And this is where you're going to talk about things like inventory. Is it a seller's market right now? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a mixed bag? This is where you're going to pull from your experience or the experience of your peers and paint a picture for their market that they're about to enter into. If Because not only do you want ready, willing, and able buyers, you want super informed buyers. Okay, so what's the inventory position? Right now, I can tell you in the GRAR, it's less than 1 month of inventory overall. And there are pockets where that's increasing. And we're seeing more and more homes go beyond delayed negotiations. So don't blanket, make sure they know that there are pockets, and I will help guide you through what the state of the market is in the market you're looking in, okay? What other kinds of things might you update a client on, or might you want to talk about and that affects the state of the market? I'm gonna get some inputs from the field. What did you say? Inspections. Yes, tell me more about that.
I would talk to them about the percentage of houses that are getting offers that are getting accepted. Waiving inspections and what our options are to tackle that.
Yeah. I love to say that I will never ask you or recommend that you waive an inspection. I believe that everyone who buys a house should have the right to an inspection. And I will also educate you that in this market, at least on my team, less than 5% of transactions are having inspections right now. So while I'll never recommend that you waive it, I'm obligated to tell you what's in front of you so that you know your options to get an offer accepted. It may need to be what you do, but I have options for you. And this is where you would go into some things that they might be able to do if they're not comfortable with it. And you want to assess, how do they feel about that? You might have a buyer that says, I know, I just had a friend that closed, didn't have an inspection. Don't worry, like my dad's super handy. I'm super comfortable. I've done it before. Okay, cool. At least you know who you're dealing with. What you want to avoid is having the conversation about waiving an inspection when you're writing an offer, right? Because then they're totally unprepared and they feel like you're telling them to waive an inspection. Where here, you're not talking about a specific house, you're talking about a market generality and how you can help them through that. So what are some options we can offer buyers who may say, you know what? Heard this and I'm not super comfortable with it. I don't feel comfortable waiving an inspection.
Home warranty.
Yep, home warranty is certainly an option. What else? We can talk about, and then you can go deeper on what that is, right? What else? Pre-inspections, or I think they like to call them pre-consultation. They don't like to call them the inspections, but yeah, where an inspector would come with you, right? So this is where you need to make sure you have your resources that you can plug your buyer into, and you just want to, hey, you may have a buyer that is absolutely not comfortable waiving an inspection. There's nothing you can do to help them, and that's okay. They just need to know that that may be a deal breaker on a lot of offers that they write. And as long as they know and are educated, that's okay. A lot of times what I find is once they write one offer in this market and they see that there were 20 offers, and out of those 20 offers, 19 waiving the inspection, they're like, all right, I'm ready.
I just had it happen today. She
Did you?
It's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but she's like, okay.
Yep. They just need to get their feet wet with it a little bit. So pre-inspections, you could certainly also talk about, do you have anyone handy in your family that you would be like, especially if it's a first time buyer, right? I brought my dad to the first house that I bought and I had an inspection, and it was like 2010, totally different market, but I just felt more comfortable having my dad's eyeballs on it. I was that buyer that brought her dad, but we all know I wear the pants, not my dad. So it wasn't an issue, but they could bring a trusted family member with them, right? Because you don't want to be the person that says, yeah, this house looks great. I've checked everything. You don't want that, but it's okay if dad says that, Anything else you can think of? The only other thing I might offer, which still doesn't help in this market every single time, is you might be able to get them to write an inspection clause that has some type of cap on or minimum amount that you would ask. Basically say, we won't ask for repairs for anything under $5,000. So we're not going to nitpick. We're just looking for if there's anything major. We all know that won't stand up when you have 30 offers you're competing with, but it gives them a tool. Okay, so you're gonna want to talk about inspections, inventory, what else?
Multiple offers.
Yeah, how do you handle multiple offers? So inside of that would be escalation clause rules, right? Delayed negotiations, setting the expectation that, hey, just because we see a house right now doesn't mean we can put an offer in right away sometimes. So escalations. delayed negotiation. You see now why 60 minutes can get chewed up real quick because you're going deep on a lot of this stuff. Yeah, anything else you can think of here, Laura?
I would talk to them about how the list price is typically 15 to 20% under the actual sales price on average. So they have an expectation of like, no, it's not, we're not negotiating backwards.
Yes. List price is a marketing strategy. That's what I say. The list price is purely a marketing strategy. Now, here's the thing. I am not going to be one of those agents that tells you you have to offer 20% over in every single house. I am the agent that will run the comps for you and tell you if that agent's marketing strategy was low or high or right on. I'm going to provide you the comps to tell you on this house, I believe they underpriced it by 50 grand. On this house, I believe they priced it right, and I believe it'll sell for right about that. I'm not going to be one of those blanket agents. That's where you sell your value. You just need to make sure you deliver, and you need to make sure you know how to interpret comps and market data. Okay,
Do you talk to them at all about lenders?
so generally I'll have that conversation on the discovery call.
Okay.
But if it comes up here, and I'll kind of share with you how I'll handle it, whether it's here or the discovery call. A lot of times the hardest conversation I think for agents to navigate, especially newer agents, is when a buyer comes to them with a lender that maybe it's, for example, I'm not going to name any of our amazing affiliates, but let's say it's a national lender like Rocket Mortgage or someone. I'm just going to say some national lender that maybe you've had a bad experience with consistently. And you know, in this market, listing brokers want local trusted lenders. You might want to ask them if they would consider getting a second opinion, right? And how I would have that conversation is, it's so great that you got pre-approved, congratulations. That means that you are ready to go and write an offer. One of the things that is important for me to do as your fiduciary is make sure that I help set you up for success. And I will share with you that in this market where there's multiple offers, a lot of times there can be multiple offers. One of the things that a listing agent and a seller will look at is who's doing the financing. Is it a lender they trust? Is it a lender with a good reputation to close and get the deal done? And generally, local lenders, and there's several strong ones I work with, are recognized and will win in that path. I'm not saying your lender is a good lender. I'm just thinking that when we put them up against the other local lenders, it might put you at a disadvantage. So would you be open to getting a second opinion from one of my local lenders, so that even in best case scenario, we can submit 2 pre-approvals to show the sellers that you have not one, but 2 lenders that are willing to give you a mortgage, right? Let's come from a place, turn it into a thing of strength. And oh, by the way, maybe they can give you a better interest rate or better closing costs, right? Another way to say it would be, one of the things my clients have found in the past that have worked with lenders that are more of a national level is they get beat out because local real estate agents don't hold those lenders in high regard. It's just a factor of the market. So if your offer is top notch and you're competing with someone with a very similar offer with a local lender, do you think a seller is going to want to go with a known entity or an unknown entity, right? So that's another way to position it. It's not you, it's my clients have experienced this. I want you to not experience this. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's really the state of the market. There might be some things that we're missing in there, but this is a very substantial, meaty conversation, for lack of a better term. Okay. All right. Then lastly, we're going to go through the process. I'm probably going to breeze through that today because this is not a class on the process, but this is where you would walk them through what happens. Okay. And you're going to probably want to develop some kind of a visual of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's what happens. You're going to start with, you determine your financial readiness and you meet with a real estate agent to go over your wants and needs. That's what we're doing today. So what happens next? Well, we start touring houses. Maybe this is where you talk about open houses and they're free to go to open houses and just reference you as their agent so that they don't get spam calls from the listing agent, right? Talk about offers and how offers work. This is maybe if you didn't talk about delayed negotiations here, maybe this is where you talk about it here. offer acceptance, attorney approval, deposit, we're gonna go through all of those things all the way to closing. And you're not gonna go so deep that you need 2 hours for this consult, but you wanna hit some key things. And some of the key things that are important to hit from my perspective is attorney approvals. And making sure they know that, hey guys, when we get an accepted offer, we get 80% excited. We get 80% excited because there's a 3-day window where the seller can back out. Okay, and so we're gonna get 80% excited. That's called attorney approval. When we get attorney approval, we're gonna get 90% excited because there's still some contingencies to remove. And when the closing papers are signed, we're gonna get 100% excited. So you're setting yourself up for success if that deal falls through. You did not make any promises that it would have, you don't want to get an attorney disapproval and that's the first time you didn't tell me, right? They may not remember that you told them, but have a consistent conversation, okay? And then, ask if there's any questions they have about the process. Okay, do they feel comfortable? Okay. Then we tell them what we told them. You might say, I remember you wanted to talk about this. Let's talk about whatever the extra thing they wanted to talk about. Okay. Then you tell them what you told them. Okay, you went over your goals, your needs. Do you have clarity? I have clarity. Do you have clarity on what your goals and needs and wants are? You want to get them to what?
Say yes.
Say yes. Yes is positive reinforcement. They're practicing saying yes for when you ask for their commitment. Make sense? Okay. Then we went over the state of the market. Do you feel like you have a really good knowledge and understanding of what's happening in the market you're about to enter into?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. And lastly, do you feel empowered to move forward? Do you feel like you understand what happens next? Yes. Awesome. Okay. So the very next step, so this is where if anyone wants to take a picture, feel free. Then we're going to talk about the very next step, which is gaining commitment. So we delivered the consult, the very end of the consult is gaining commitment. And we just got them to say yes 3 times in a row. So how easy is it to get them to say yes the 4th time, right? Piece of cake. And this is where a lot of agents feel a way about it because they feel like, what if they get in their own head, right? I get it. I've been there.
But if you've confidently executed all of that, then there's no reason for them to question why you're going on to this next part of it.
Right. I want to liken it to, think about, have you ever met with an attorney, financial advisor, someone that you needed their professional services and they gave you value, showed you what happens next and asked you to sign a retainer or something, right? To you, that's, yeah, okay, great. This is what we do to move forward. So if you can establish that this is my standard of working with you, you've shown a lot of value, there should be zero, in theory, there should be zero nerves around asking for that commitment, okay? So we just got them to yes, and then I say, okay, great. So the next step to get started is we're gonna go through some paperwork, and then I'm gonna get your MLS search started, I'm gonna set up a group chat, and we can get started with showings. How does that sound? Great, okay, let me pull up the paperwork we're gonna go over. I see how you made that not a big deal, just gonna go over some paperwork. So what I generally, this is where I'll share my screen, so make sure you know how to share your screen. You might have developed some other collateral, like we have some other collateral that shows when we're talking about the process, we'll pull it up so they can see the process as we're talking, because you might have a visual learner. So the more you can develop as far as collateral to show them as you're walking through, the better. Just make sure it's not too busy. Because it's a small screen and you don't want them focused on the words, you want them focused on your words with the words to support what you're saying. Make sense? So think of it as like a bullet outline that you might be showing. So, however, when it comes to the paperwork, I'll share my screen and I'll pull up, I'll have PDF of agency disclosure, fair housing, and my buyer partnership agreement. Those are the 3 key pieces of paper that I want them to sign at that point. Number 1 and 2, because New York State requires it, right? New York State says if you have a substantive conversation with a consumer about real estate, you need to show them agency and fair housing. It also gives me 2 chances to get them to say yes before I ask for the buyer partnership agreement. 2 more chances to say yes, right? So the first one we go over, this is called gaming commitment. First, we're gonna go over agency. 2, we're gonna go over fair housing. And 3, we're gonna go over what I call buyer partnership. Or the lister. Okay, I'm gonna pull it up on the screen. I'm gonna say, this is the paper we're gonna go over. I will send it to you after this consult for your electronic signatures, but I wanna slow down right now to explain what you're signing. Would that be okay with you? Yeah, great, cool. Just got the yes again. You see that? It's not really yes in there. Okay. So the first form we're gonna go over is required by New York State Department of State. Okay, you'll see, and I'll show right at the top here, this is not a contract. This is simply a disclosure form disclosing to you who I am acting in the best interest for. In this conversation, I represent, just looking at the time, I was like, is it 3 o'clock? No, it's almost 2 o'clock. Okay. In this conversation, I am looking out for you and your best interests as a buyer, okay? There's several kinds of agency that exist. Buyer's agency, seller's agency, dual agency. We're gonna talk about them. I'm representing you as a buyer in this conversation, and there's some fiduciary duties that I owe you. This is where slowing down to go over those fiduciary duties and not glossing them over, I promise you will win you brownie points. They will see that you are a consummate professional and you explain your role, and most agents don't do that. So it'll just win you brownie points in terms of validity and the bar you set for your service. So go slow down on old car, right? Obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accountability, and reasonable care, right? And honesty to both sides. Go through that. And then you're gonna wanna explain that when you fill it out, you're gonna send it to them where they check that you represent them as a buyer. And you're gonna say, no, I'm asking you, I'm gonna check these 2 boxes. Remember the 2 boxes in the middle, which is advanced informed consent to dual agency and advanced informed consent to dual agency with designated sales agents. You're gonna say, I'm gonna check these 2 boxes and ask for your advanced informed consent to these 2 things. Let me explain what that means. Advanced informed consent to dual agency means that you don't want to be limited to see a house if it's represented with an agent in my office. Okay. Sorry, dual agency with designated. Let me back up for a second. I usually start there. That just means that if another Keller Williams agent in my office has a listing that you love, you want me to take you to it. Okay. In that instance, my broker, Susan, KW, is a dual agent. I represent you. John Doe represents the seller. I don't know the seller doesn't know you, there's separation, but Susan has to look out for both sides. Make sense? Okay. And the second one, dual agency, would mean if by some stroke of luck, I happen to have a listing, or my team, right? If Jen has a listing that you love, would you like to see it? Or would you not like to see it? Right? And ultimately they're like, no, yeah, I want to see every listing. Okay, great. Then in that case, a dual agency just means that in that case, because I would have a representation of the seller, I couldn't also be loyal to you. I would have to be Switzerland. Okay. But right now we're just checking this box so that I know you're okay seeing these houses. We can reapproach if my agency changes and how that might work later. Okay. But check that box as much as you can. Okay. Then you're gonna, any questions? Sound good? Yep, sounds good. Awesome. Next form. Another New York State form, a required disclosure, talking to you about the protected classes inside of fair housing in New York State. And making sure you know that as a licensed realtor, I am not able to, nor can you as my client, discriminate against any of these protected classes. And if at any point you feel discriminated against, here is a number and a hotline you can call to report me. Okay. I'm that blunt about it. I want them to know that I'm going to hold myself to a high bar and this is what you need to sign. Okay, sound fair? Great. All right. And the last piece of paperwork here is our buyer partnership agreement. This is a form that I have all of my clients sign as a commitment to working with me and a commitment for me to work with you. trying to think, I'm gonna pause here for a second because GRAR has a version of this. Forget what it's called, it's like 2 pages. I think we also have one in the market center as well. Bob might have uploaded it. Because I created like a 1-pager that's just less to look at. I like a clean 1 page, 2 pages can be like overwhelming. I'm not sure if the gateway if I have that or not, so you can look into that, but I will explain how. This might be an opportunity where I explain how I get paid. I'm just curious because we haven't talked about this yet. Do you understand how I get paid as your representative? A lot of people will say, no, I actually don't know. Okay, great. Well, here's the interesting thing. I actually don't get paid until you close on a home. So I'm sure you can appreciate that it could take us a year to find you the right home. I know you're not in a hurry, right? So all I ask, I'm going to be doing a lot of work for you between now and then. All I ask is that if I can commit to you 120% and work really hard to find you that home, you commit to me in that meantime and you work exclusively with me as your agent, okay? And I can help you with new builds, land, you want to make sure I can help you with for sale by owners. This would basically make us partners on any home that you purchase, okay? And there's a section in the partnership agreement that talks about how I get paid. Now my fee is 3%. And that 3% is generally paid to me by the seller. There's only a couple of instances where I would come to you and ask you to pay that fee. And that's generally if the seller is unwilling to pay it because it's a sale by owner and they're just not willing to pay it. What we would do is when you come to terms with the seller on a price, we would gross your price up by 3% and mortgage my commission, okay? I've had that happen once in 11 years. So it doesn't happen very often, but they do need to know that ultimately they're responsible for the fee unless the seller pays it. And generally the seller pays it, so they're not responsible for it. Make sense? So this outlines the terms of our partnership and basically says that I'm going to work hard to meet your goals and expectations and find you a property at a price and terms that meets your needs. And the only 2 commitments you have to me is to furnish me with what I need to get the job done. You know, be honest with me throughout the process. And use me exclusively as your partner. Now, here's the thing. This is not a marriage, right? So if at any point, I always ask my clients, if at any point you feel like you're not getting the service you deserve, please let me know. I welcome the feedback and we can part ways. And then I'll add in, I've never had that happen. And I want to make sure you know that if you're ever dissatisfied, we can certainly part ways. That way, if there's any hesitation left at the end of this valuable meeting, you just gave them a little bit of an out in the future to know, okay, I can submit and not feel like if they have, what's the word I'm looking for? Commitment phobia, right? You just showed them that, hey, we're not getting married, we're just dating. Okay. Any questions on the partnership agreement? No? Okay, great. That's what I would say to them, right? Any questions on the partnership agreement? Okay, great. No, great. Well, I will send this package up and I am extremely excited to work with you. Right, you're almost assuming the close. There's other closes you can work with, but when you get them to this, then you know they're signing, they're good to go. Okay. And then you're gonna recap, okay, just a reminder, here's what happens next. I'm gonna send this to you, I'm gonna start your search, I'm gonna send you a group chat, and we're gonna get out there. Okay. Pause, question.
We don't have a gateway one, but there is a buyer agency agreement in GRAR and transaction desk. Also on
That's what it's
the
called.
internet.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, you probably just pulled that one down from cool. Thank you for checking that. Questions about the consult gaining commitment, anything? Cool. Nothing?
I've been sitting in here since 7 o'clock this morning, so I'm starting to lose.
Starting to fade?
Oh, tired.
Forward. Okay, Fran.
I'm just not overwhelmed, shouldn't say it that way, but I feel so empowered with the information that you've given us and the way you present it. It's just great. It's not an easy thing to do, and I might be doing one as soon as this week.
Amazing.
So, with that, I feel better.
Good.
Because I could have been one who would shy away from it, but now I feel like I want to do it so that I can feel the confidence of knowing that it is a partnership and not a fly by the seat of your pants, and if you screw up one bit, they're gonna go look for somebody else.
Yeah, you don't want to be on eggshells the whole time. Are they with me? Are they not with me? If I call them, are they gonna pick up, right?
Yeah, right.
I get that. The other thing I'll add for you, Fran, knowing that you might have one coming up, is sometimes I find, and I can be that person because I am a recovering perfectionist. That I don't want to start until I have everything ready to go. And that's just our brain letting us off the hook from starting because there's one more thing to finish and therefore I'm never going to start because I'm always going to have something to finish, right?
That's what a procrastinator is.
Yes, yes. And a procrastination happens because of different reasons. I would say that's a procrastination probably because of perfectionism, right? I want to make sure I have all my ducks in a row before I start. Prepare. I will tell you, my first consult and my consults in my first couple of years have similar, like they cover the same stuff, but they look very different today than they did then because I honed my skills over time. I built my collateral over time. So don't be afraid to start with nothing, no collateral, very limited experience. You have what you need to navigate a conversation and anything you add to it will only enhance it. But not having a screen to share doesn't take away from the main thing, which is the conversation to educate and bring you closer to the buyer.
And
That's the main
instead of
thing.
doing a Zoom, doing it here is okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
This person lives in Canada.
Yeah. I miss in-person consults. Yeah.
And choose your own location or go right to the,
I generally say the office,
yeah.
pick a conference room is gonna be the best. I've had people do it in like, if a buyer is coming from Seneca Falls, it might not make sense for them to come here, but maybe you can meet somewhere in Geneva at like a Starbucks or something.
Yeah.
There's gonna be background noise and stuff. It's a little bit distracting, but it's better than not doing it at all.
Mhm.
Okay. The only other thing we typically cover is what happens if a buyer cheats on me, right? What happens if they want to break their partnership agreement with me, or I find out that they're working with another agent. And I guess I would say it depends on the situation. If they come to you and ask you to get out of the agreement, I would ask for, you may see it coming, you may know there's something that happened or something you did or a conversation that didn't go well and you've been thinking of ending it. And so maybe it's a good thing. If it kind of blindsides you, I would run to the conversation and say, absolutely, I want to make sure that you have the best experience in your home search. And if this is what you want, I will absolutely do that. Would you do something for me? Right? They're willing to help you because you just told them yes to let them out of your contract. I would appreciate your feedback on the reason you're ending our partnership. What could I have done differently? What's causing it? Take that feedback to learn and grow. Okay. I think there's anything else. No, I don't think so. I think we did a good job today. If you have any questions or just follow-up questions as you're going through it, feel free to reach out. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Kathleen, did you have anything on the line?
Actually, I did have one question.
Oh.
When you were going over agency, I guess in my head, I always thought dual agency with designated sales was any KW agent. So it's
No.
just the ones inside your office?
Correct. Well, so technically, take that back. Technically, it's any KW agent in the greater Rochester area because Chuck is a broker in this office too. If Chuck wasn't a broker in this office, then it wouldn't be dual agency designated with Rochester agents. If you're doing a deal with a KW Buffalo agent or a KW, Chuck is not a broker in Buffalo. He's a part owner in Buffalo, but not a broker. If you're doing any other KW agent outside of greater Rochester, it's not dual agency.
Okay.
Only if the broker is the same broker.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. Okay. Thank you for coming, everybody. Go get your buyer partnership agreement.
Thank you.
Bye, Kathleen.